Hello, everybody. Good evening. Thanks for coming. I think most of you know me. I'm Mike Cahill. I'm your mayor. I've got a number of your local elected officials here. Let me just try to quickly acknowledge everybody. We've got Ward 1 City Councilor Todd Rotundo, State Representative Jerry Paracella, State Senator Joan Lovely, a number of other councilors. Ward 6 City Councilor Matt St. Hilaire, City Councilor at Large Hannah Bowen, City Councilor at Large and Council President Julie Flowers. Am I missing anybody? Okay, and then we also have Mike Collins, our Commissioner of Public Services in Beverly, as well as Police Chief John LaLasher and Fire Chief Peter O'Connor. What I wanted to do in setting this night when we met a few weeks ago was try to get a reasonably quick follow-up to give a couple of updates and then have more of a conversation about anything that you want to ask about or share. So in terms of follow-ons from the meeting with MassDOT, couple of things we've been pushing to get in from. One thing is we did get that raw traffic data that they collected, and we just got it late last week. We put it up on the website yesterday, so if anybody wants to take a look at it, our teams have not had a lot of time to look at it quite yet either, but just it's there if you want to see it. So a couple things that we've mostly been following up with. One is we've made it very clear to the MassDOT folks that their proposal to open a temporary bridge and eventually tear it down so as to build a permanent replacement bridge at Whitaker, that isn't going to fly with anybody here. So the goal is that they're able to design, permit, and build a temporary bridge as quickly as possible, and that temporary bridge have 2 lanes of traffic, the ability to go both ways, and a designated probably a sidewalk for bikes and pedestrians. It may be where bikers have to walk across the bridge. There's limited width to build in, but the goal is to get a temporary bridge that can stay operational from the day it opens until the day a permanent replacement bridge opens, before it would be taken down. Obviously, when they came in, their plan is they know they've got to replace both bridges, Whitaker and Kernwood. You saw all that they laid out if you were there. If you weren't able to be at that last meeting, the PowerPoint is on our website. We may refer to it tonight, depending on what kind of questions you bring up. So it's there to look at if we need to. So that's one, is we've said to them it's got to be a temporary bridge that stays operational right on through. They have tasked VHB, the engineering firm, with pursuing that. And I don't know if it's going to mean that the bridge is, essentially what will happen, you come down Bridge Street, and the bridge will offset, it'll go around the existing bridge one way or the other, downstream or upstream, and come back together on the other side. So they're looking at that, it's what we're pushing for, and as soon as there's more to share with that, I'll push it out, to you folks, and when it makes sense to meet again, to share that information and whatever else, we can do that. I don't think tonight we set a date, but as soon as there's more information to share, we can get together again. The other piece that we wanted to follow up with them on, based on what they said that night, was they talked about a series of repairs to the Kernwood Bridge so that it can stay operational until they're ready, until they've done the design and permitting and they can tear that down and rebuild it. So this is what they told us today as far as that goes. Just want to make sure I say what I wrote down. There are a couple different parts to that repair work on the Kernwood. One is replacing the deck on the swing span. That's the paved surface. And also they would need to make some steel repairs underneath the deck. Don't know how many weeks that would be. Depends on if we're able to get them. And they're looking at trying to figure out whether they can do 2 shifts at a time or 2 shifts each 24 hours, whether those shifts are going to be 8 or whether they can be 12-hour shifts. So they're exploring, trying to figure out how to do that work as quickly as they can once they start, because that is work that will require the Kernwood to be closed to do it. And their hope is to do that work this winter. This winter's, it's 3 months. I don't know exactly when. They don't know exactly when. That work, they've just got to get sorted. There's another piece to the work that involves some permitting, and that is buttressing up the conduit and related supports for the swing span. And obviously they're opening and closing that, all boating season long and beyond, really throughout the year. For some of the commercial fishermen and women upriver. So that piece is going to also require installing some mini piles. That's where they are already working on getting the necessary environmental permitting for that. They're hopeful that that work won't require closing the bridge. So they're looking at trying to keep Kernwood open for that piece of work, trying to figure out how to minimize the length of time Kernwood's closed for the other part of the work. And again, there'll be more to tell in the coming weeks. So those are a couple pieces to the, to the overall picture. I also know that Councilor Rotundo shared a number of kind of ongoing questions that people have had with the representative, the senator, and me over the weekend. And I can tell you one thing that we've talked about, we've been looking at, and are now agreeing with Councilor Rotundo and some of the neighbors, is that we're going to put a crosswalk across Woodland, all right, well, right out here. You're heading down Woodland, we're going to put a crosswalk across Woodland this side of Livingstone. Now that we have a sidewalk contractor who will have to put over to do that work. They right now are working to try to finish up sidewalk on Colin Street between the senior center and down towards Brimble Ave. The plan is that when they're done on that job, hopefully they'll be able to come over here and do this work. The only wild card is the, where we're at with weather at that point in time, but that's the goal. So I'll stop there. Councilor, I don't know if you want to share a couple thoughts, and then we can go to the audience. Yep, okay, Representative and Senator? All right, well, why don't we do that? Jocelyn Ruel-Kursker, my Chief of Staff, is here to share the microphone around. If you've got questions, thoughts, any other topics you want to bring up, within the, all the areas of concern that you've got. Jocelyn up here, and then, now we've got a few.
Thank you for being here tonight. Question I had as a follow-up to the meeting from last month was the permitting process sounds brutal, years long. And are there warm bodies at the Coast Guard or any of these other nebulous organizations that people could, from MassDOT that they can call, or Senator Lovely, Representative Paracella, can some phones be picked up and try to smooth this process out? Because I think that was one of the most frustrating things for me to hear, was that, first of all, that permitting process hadn't even started. It's been known for a long time that the bridge is in rough shape, but nothing, it seems like the planning hasn't been started until the bridge got shut down. So now that we're in a jam,
right,
can some phone calls be made to maybe smooth out and speed up that permitting process?
Yeah, so first, just a point on the temporary bridge. One of the reasons they were initially not looking to offset was that there will be some additional environmental permitting required by offsetting, right? And there'll be some additional right-of-way work, because there'll be a need to take some property temporarily, but temporarily would be several years, right? In that sense. So there's additional work required to do it the way we're talking now. So to your point, how long does it have to take? How many different ways can we save time, really? And the answer is, we're the local elected officials. We've got our state delegation of the senator and representative, and we've got our congressmen and 2 U.S. senators. There are an array of federal agencies, state agencies, local agencies, right, that are going to have responsibilities on various pieces of permitting. So we've been working with the congressman's office and the senator's office to try to coordinate. Really, we all need to dig in and understand the different pieces of permitting and when they come in. You saw MassDOT put up that timeline, right? And we need to get under that hood and fully understand. Some things are statutorily required to take so many days, weeks, months. Some things can be done at the same time as each other, while others have to be consecutive. So the answer is, our goal is to, in the coming weeks and months, really fully understand the whole of it. And, for lack of a better term, just all of the elected officials at the local, state, and federal level that serve you really lock arms and just push every step. My hope is that there'll be, different pieces of these processes that we're able to really save time on, and that we're able to prevent losing time, in any way on others. And when I say, your elected officials, that extends beyond that to a lot of really committed and talented people like Commissioner Collins and our engineering department and, staff that work at the other levels for the state and federal elected teams that we'll be working with. So hang on, you got the next person, right? Yeah, we'll just keep, we got here and then a couple over here and then we can come back to you.
Hi, I'm Susan Whitelux, and I live on Eastern Ave. My concern is I'm on one of those streets that's between Bridge and Elliott. And our street is a raceway right now. It's a narrow, steep hill, and not even really a UPS truck can get down there unless people are parked on the sidewalks. And the same thing is happening to all of those streets between Bridge and Elliott. The traffic down Bridge Street is dangerous, and it's already getting dark. What's going to be done to address the safety issues for the pedestrians in our community? Because nothing is being done now. You can't see the crosswalks. People are flying down our street is full of children and pets. My neighbor's car has already been hit and had her mirror knocked off. These are immediate issues that need to be addressed. And we can't wait 6 months. We can't wait a year. We need pedestrian safety in Ryleside now for kids to get to school safely. All the commuters that we're encouraging to walk and bike across this bridge have no light safety through our neighborhood. Cars are not stopping at stop signs. We need help. We need police presence in our community. And it's going to take somebody getting hurt, hit, or injured before you guys step up and do something. And that's not okay. We need safety in our neighborhood. For as long as this is going to take, we need some safety measures in our neighborhood.
Well, I hope it's not going to take anybody getting hurt. I mean, you know that you've seen police presence and you've seen people pulled over. And if you think it's not enough, we're going to keep doing as much as we can. We do have 2 full-time traffic patrol officers. We have a regular, patrol beat unit, the 901 car that is assigned to Ryleside on a regular basis every hour of the day. Our community impact unit has been putting some focus on traffic enforcement and safety. And in terms of, you want presence and you want enforcement. That's one. Beyond that, I don't know. I heard you say, yeah, of course it's getting dark earlier. It's later in the year. And good, I'm sorry.
I understand lights like on the rail trail take a lot of time to install, and there's a Bridge Street project coming. But anything in the meantime that draws attention to the fact that there's a crosswalk there. I have been in the crosswalk with my dog and a car fly around the car waiting and pass right there on Bridge and Eastern.
Yeah,
That is not safe.
Okay.
And they can't see. They can't see why this car is stopped.
Right.
Because I'm walking in front of them. So something has to be done about that to slow traffic down and make people aware that we are crossing the street. I mean, there are a dozen crosswalks down that street, and you can see like 2 the whole way down Bridge Street. That's not safe.
Okay. All right. No, point well taken. And this is not to say that everything that we can do has to wait. The Bridge Street reconstruction project, a lot of the focus in design has gone into trying to make the whole corridor safer for everybody who uses it. So you should see some improvements there, but that construction work is still, a year plus away. So your points, we'll take them back. We'll try to figure out how to help make the crosswalks and the all the points where you do cross back and forth safer for you. I got you. Okay. So we're going to go with hands being raised, but since you're suggesting that the money that the state approached us on and said, we know you're up against a lot here as a community, as a neighborhood, and we know that a piece of it, not all of it, right, a piece of it is recognizing that the detour down McPherson, back and forth from downtown and over to Salem, in the Goat Hill neighborhood, is got you needing to use Elliott Street, and that's more traffic on Elliott Street. that money is specifically targeted to make those signals work better, be technologically smarter, and be able to read cues, be able to, to adapt the length of green lights as needed, and to be better synced up. So, I mean, it is money that needs to be spent there, and the things that you're looking for, we're going to try to figure out how to do better as well. Okay? All right, thanks.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ben Johnson, live on 22 Woodland Ave, the new epicenter of the new 128 cutting through our neighborhoods. But a few concerns for me is, you guys did a counter study of the number of cars coming through recently, and I haven't seen any active mitigation to slow traffic down. There's been no speed limit signs added. There's actually no speed limit sign coming down from Kernwood Heights down Woodland. So the cars are able to just carry all their speed down from the school here, right down Woodland past my house. And, is there some new traffic or speed limit signs going to go in?
So to the first point you raised, as I said, we only got the raw traffic data from the state late Thursday.
Okay.
What we can draw from that, who should be looking at that with what, level of expertise to try to, take some learnings from it and see what ought to happen. That still has to happen.
So what's the process to get those speed limit signs put into place?
So I'm not going to try to answer this. I'm going to ask for a little help on this, except to say that the default speed limit within the city limits of Beverly is 25 miles an hour by law, by state law. If you see a different speed limit sign somewhere, it's typically because there was a study done some years ago and a particular number was arrived at based on that study. Go ahead,
right.
sorry.
Well, absolutely. But, now that this is in an active construction zone with a road closure, with an active construction zone, you do not need an engineering study to put a speed limit sign in place. You can do that. The police department can do that.
Well,
With an active construction zone, there's no need for an engineering study.
so what I don't want to be unfair to anybody here.
Sure.
Mike, is there anything that we can do with the, the speed limit's 25 miles an hour unless it's already posted differently. So would it help to put a couple of those, in certain areas?
You don't post this. The statutory speed limit's not posted, and any speed limit that you do post other than the statutory speed limit's illegal and unenforceable, so the police wouldn't be able to stop a car or write a ticket.
But in a construction zone, right, with an orange and black sign, you can amend those speed limits in an active construction zone or the adjacent detours.
But Woodland Ave's not an active construction zone.
But it's an adjacent detour, no?
We can't put up, there would be an arbitrary speed limit, and you can say it as many times as you like, it'd be illegal to do it.
I completely understand, but all we're talking about is getting the people from Salem and Peabody to slow down. You put a 15-mile-per-hour sign up, you're going to see brake lights, okay? And just having no sign up, you don't see brake lights until they come over the crest of that hill. And you're talking about putting a crosswalk on the east side of Livingston, right across Woodland Ave. The cars coming up Woodland don't have a speed limit sign either, and they have a blind crest to that hill, so they're going to be coming over and having to slam on the brakes if there are people crossing in the crosswalk.
So you can't put a 15-mile-an-hour sign. No. So
Well, I know back in the day, I saw somebody put up a 15-mile-an-hour sign, and my house is the closest to the street on Woodland Ave. I'm the stucco house with the fence. And when that 15-mile-an-hour sign was up for a few months, the traffic was significantly slower. It doesn't matter what you do, just get an orange and black sign up with the construction zone, without having to do that survey, and you're going to slow cars down. Because right now there's no speed limit sign coming down Woodland Ave, as you'll notice tonight coming past my house.
where does the school zone begin?
At the top of the hill is where that sign is, and it says 25 when school is in session. But coming down that hill, nobody slows down because there's no sign.
Right. So we can't put a 15-mile-an-hour sign up where the legal speed limit is not 15 miles an hour.
But it's a
We
construction
cannot do
zone.
that. What we talked about before you got up was the need for more enforcement, continually more enforcement. That's a piece.
Right.
And
But it's hard to enforce that, though, when they don't know how fast they can be going.
Well, and if you're in a school zone, during school hours, it's supposed to be one thing. Other than that, a citywide, statewide default speed limit is 25. Everybody knows it.
Right.
They're meant to know it. The expectation and the law says you're supposed to know it, you're supposed to follow it.
Yep. Right. Well, it just seems to me that this is, I think we can say, an active construction zone, or else all the people coming by my house would be using the bridge. And because of that, we can, as the law says, put in construction zone signs with an adjusted speed limit as noted by the police for the safety of pedestrians and people in the neighborhood.
So you want us to, we're going to go back and we're going to follow up on your assertion that it's an active construction zone.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll do that.
Okay.
That's a legal question.
Yep.
And I'm looking to you, Jocelyn, because I won't remember it. I'm not taking notes. Thank you. Just take some notes there. So we'll look into that.
Yep.
As far as, would there be any? Okay, we'll take back the idea of, one, is it an active construction zone? Could it be construed as such? If it can't, it can't. We know what the speed limit is in a school zone. We know what the speed limit is otherwise in the community, in the whole state, which is 25. And we'll take a look at all of it, and we'll keep pushing on the enforcement as well.
Yeah, and and also something, if you're going to be putting in that crosswalk, that cars know coming up Woodland, that there's going to be a crosswalk with pedestrian crossing, flashing orange light there, or
Well,
I don't know
right.
what,
There's a minimum sight line distance you've got to have, and it certainly wouldn't work on the other side of Livingstone. It's closer to the crest of the hill. It's got to be up, so all that's going to go into sighting, just where to put it.
Okay. All right. Well, look forward to the follow-up.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Ben. Is there anybody else over here initially? Yeah.
I know the bridge opens, I was told, 17 times a year, and I don't know what boats come through there, but has any consideration been made to relocate those boats and make that bridge static? Because I think that would probably go a long way in making it easier to build, less maintenance. I know that's something you have to bring to the state, and that's not you.
Right.
Second, can they expedite moving Bridge Street up under repair? I live on Folger Ave. I travel Bridge Street every day. It's a mess.
Right.
And then my third point is, real quick, Echo Ave, that is a hindrance to the light. I wish they would flash that light and get rid of the left-hand turn. Right turn only. They'd have to go to McKay Street to take the left-hand turn, because it does create a lot of, those lights are very hard to coordinate. So if they could look into that, that's something I'd like to see.
Okay. No, I appreciate the points. I'll try to take them one at a time. The idea of a fixed span bridge over the Bass River, the Whitaker, they're looking for a fixed span for the temporary bridge. What MassDOT has been, I think, shying away from is a conversation about a fixed span permanently, because it is a navigable river, right? And that brings in the Coast Guard, and you're right. Would the state relocate the boat club? Would they relocate those who can't make it under a fixed span?
Right.
Could a permanent replacement bridge be on a bit higher elevation so more boats could get under it at various tides? Those are all open questions. Some of you folks have brought them up in past conversations. I think they're still open questions. We've been saying to the MassDOT staff, there are decisions that they won't make on their own that I think kind of go more into the political realm, like a taking. And so there are all of us who are trying to be in that conversation and trying to really inform ourselves as to how it can move. So I don't know if the end result of the permanent replacement bridge over the Bass River, the Whitaker Bridge, will be
I know it's fairly
fixed.
shallow, so I didn't know how many boats, if there's a dozen boats that use that, or if they're small enough they can go underneath. Does it really need to be a movable bridge?
Yeah,
that sort of thing?
there are a limited number of openings a year, but there are many more boats than that. They coordinate. There are a lot of them who go downriver in the spring to a mooring or a slip, and then only come back at the end of the season. So there is a certain amount of that. We're trying to work with the boat club and understand their needs, as is MassDOT. So the other 2 points, I'm going to ask Commissioner Collins to talk about the Echo Ave signal, but what was the other one?
Bridge Street, it's a mess.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. So the Bridge Street construction project is something that we've been pushing with the state for years. And it's one of there are smaller projects that cost less that we try to do with city resources, right? The Bridge Street project is, I don't know when it's all told what it'll be, but call it $14 million. Okay, so it's one that we knew we couldn't do on our own with city resources, so we applied to get onto the TIP list, the Transportation Improvement Plan of the state. And that's where federal and state monies get dedicated each year to projects that apply, that get on a list, that go through the different phases of design, of right-of-way work, and then eventually get funded. We're supposed to be funded in federal fiscal year 23. So a year from now, we should be funded.
Just assuming there's a lot less traffic.
I'm sorry. We're supposed to be funded in the federal fiscal year that just started a month ago. What we've been pushing for and being told initially by MassDOT was they're going to advertise our job, meaning put it out there so that construction firms can reply, and then one gets selected, and then you start the construction. Supposed to put that out in January, February. More recently, MassDOT's talking about putting us out not till May or June. We're pushing back, but I would say the goal is that work will start sometime next calendar year. From the state side of things, there is work that has to happen first, though, that's our own, that's some water and sewer infrastructure improvements under the street.
Right,
So
just the traffic is a lot less right now. It's gone
Absolutely.
down, it's
Yeah.
going to be down 75%.
Yeah, we want to start or have the state, we want to have them start and finish the whole project before the temp bridge is up and running. Absolutely.
Right.
So let me turn it over to Commissioner Collins for anything else.
And then it was the
for
Echo Ave.
Yeah.
Light. If they could do something there, that really gets in the way, because not many people use that, take the left. But if you got rid of, flash that light and only right turn only, it might save some of that traffic that gets backed up between McKay and Echo Ave.
Yeah, any new light you put in, there's an adjustment period. It takes a little bit to, we come up with a sequence and timing operation that we think will work based on the traffic study beforehand. But when you put in a new signal, traffic's not the same anymore, right? So we got to keep tweaking it. And as late as last week, we made some fairly significant tweaks to the timing of it, which I think should eliminate the backup that's causing, because we all know that if there's 12,000 cars a day in each direction on Elliott Street, do we really care as much about the 300 cars a day that are coming out of Echo? That we need to get those 12,000 cars through that intersection as efficiently as possible. And so we've shortened the time on Echo as much as possible, and we've added a significant amount of time to the Elliott Street direction, which I think I went through there tonight between 4 and 5 a couple of times, and there was no backup whatsoever caused by the light in the afternoon. I didn't get to see it this morning, but I think that the timing that we've got the light working on right now should hopefully make it just about invisible to the Elliott Street traffic, and still allow what the critical thing that light does is it provides a link from Shingleville to Ryleside for pedestrians, a safe way to get across that intersection there, and a safe way for the traffic to get out of Echo and whatnot. So the light does provide a lot of benefit. We can't put a light like that on flash. Wouldn't comply with the regulations that we have to uphold. So it can't be just put on flash and left alone. It won't work in the pedestrian phase. You can't have both. But I think that the timing that we've got should work. And if it doesn't, we'll keep tweaking it until it does work, because it doesn't make any sense, obviously, we're not in the business of making life miserable. Everyone knows if there's an intersection that has no traffic controls, if you're an aggressive driver, it's awesome. You love it. We'd all rather have no lights anywhere, but it's not safe. You can't get through the city if there's not some level of traffic controls. So along with that safety, there's a little bit of sacrifice for that aggressive driver. But I think that the timing that we've got, and like I said, we tweaked it again last week significantly to try to favor that Elliott Street traffic. So give it a little bit of time. I think it's going to work. I think it's already much better. Like I said, went through their rush hour today, and there was no backup whatsoever from that light in either direction. So I think we'll be all right, and we will keep tweaking it until it is working well, and so we don't notice it. We'll talk about something else. We'll talk about the next thing.
Hi. My name is Nick. I'm on Shortell Ave. I have two questions for you. One, do we need we know the Whitaker Bridge is junk. It's garbage. No, it's been closed for a year. Is there any way that we need a permit to start demoing it now? Why can't we save time later on? Let's get the thing out of the way, or do we need a permit to do we need that federal permit to demo, at least demo it, because nobody can use it now as it is? And two, being on Shortell Ave, are you ever, what? You walk over it? All right, well, it was just a question, don't kill me. It's just a question, I'm not even gonna talk about the yacht club. Sorry, I just thought maybe we can get some of this work out of the way.
Yeah, no,
But
appreciate it. Well,
apparently not, and my second question, being on Shortell Ave, are you ever gonna finish paving Western Ave? I literally drive to Danvers to get back to Beverly because I refuse to drive down Western Ave.
We're waiting for, like every contractor, we're just waiting for a hole in their schedule. They keep getting, the rain keeps pushing their schedule out. They keep kicking us out. They're supposed to be here a couple of weeks ago, so we're waiting like you. So we will get it paved.
My name is Betsy Brutalik. I live on Elliott Street. I just want to say thank you for doing this and giving us an opportunity to have a voice. You see something, you say something. And I think it's really important that we all have a voice here. This summer, in July, I had an accident at the bridge on my bike because there was no universal access to get over the bridge. I called Todd and we talked and he says, I'm calling MassDOT. And my feeling was, I don't want to see anybody else have an accident here. I've had the accident that the woman on Eastern Ave is talking about. I had the accident, you know. So I really believe in you guys that Jerry and Joan and Todd and Mike, you guys are a team, and you know, maybe everything isn't perfect, and I get that. But within a month, less than a month, MassDOT fixed the universal access on that bridge. And so I just was like, wow, that's, to me, you guys pressed into it, you pushed into it, you made it happen. And so I think it's just really important that our voices still are to be heard, and that you guys are representing us and just keep pushing and pressing. And I think, to me, that was a miracle that there was universal access made on that bridge so that we could cross it safely. And so, unfortunately, it cost me something, but I'm grateful. I'm very grateful. So I just want to, that's my positive note for tonight, that just you see something, say something to these people that are representing you. And I think we'll see change. I think we can see what our heart's desires are.
Betsy, thank you. And I will say, look, we're all trying to work together every day on this. And I know he'll deflect it, but Councilor Rotundo was the one who made that happen more than anybody. So thank you, Councilor.
I've seen something, so I'm going to say something. So I also live on Woodland Ave. I have a 5-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 1-year-old, so very safety conscious right now. And I think the crosswalk is a great first step. I've personally been hit in a crosswalk and broke my leg, so
Yeah.
I don't think, I have a different perspective. Police presence helps at that point in time. The crosswalk lights and stuff help at that point in time. The cars are flying down Woodland. So I think, the design of the street itself doesn't tell anyone to slow down. In fact, the curbs and everything, it looks like you can go fast on there. So I would like to see what could be done visually to help really tell drivers to slow down. Other parts in Beverly have the signs that say how fast they're going. That seems like it could be implemented fairly easily. You're not creating a speed limit or anything, you're just telling them how fast they're going. And I don't know what else could be done, but I think there really needs to be changes in the road design itself. I don't think that's happening. But because when you get hit, you don't care what the speed limit was, It's really how fast the car was going. So I guess that's my commentary, and my question is, what can you do? What's in your power to do? What can you commit to doing?
Usually the first thing we do when a comment like that comes up is study it first to make sure that there's actually a speeding problem. And I know that
Come on.
I know it's easy to say because,
But you need a study to put a sign up that shows how fast people are going?
No. So the police department has, I bought one that they use and they're buying another one. They have temporary ones they can put out. And then we put them out for months at a time in certain
There's also
locations.
the permanent ones.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, but we have a temporary one that we could put out there like right now, so.
I don't see it out there.
But no, we can't, and those temporary ones will collect that data. They'll tell you the speeds that cars are going.
Yeah, I see a lot of prioritization of getting cars from point to point and not as much on pedestrian safety.
Well,
Studies to show that cars can.
right,
move
but
around.
we can't waste resources on problems that don't exist. So we need to define the problem before we can fix the problem.
I'm an engineer. I get that whole process and methodology. It doesn't take an engineer or anyone to go on Woodland and stay there and see the cars flying down. Like, where does common sense, and it took an accident for the access ramp to go up. What accidents are we waiting to happen to, change the design of Woodland Ave?
So we do have, as Commissioner Collins said, we have one and are getting a second of these trailers, or yours a trailer or the one that goes on the signpost?
And that's going where?
So we use them all over town. So you're saying you're seeing a lot of speeding.
Everyone, yeah.
Let's get one of them out here and let's see what you're seeing, right? And I mean that's the first step.
I don't think this is breaking news though. So I want to know,
Yeah.
when's it going to happen?
Right. So what's that? Along Woodland. Well, here, why don't you share that one? Sorry.
Thank you. So at the request, I had asked the traffic sergeant to there's a box that went on there. You can't see, you don't know about it. And he did it on Livingston, he did it on Kernwood Heights, and he did it on Woodland over the summertime. In response to everyone saying to me, there's all the speeding going on, a couple of your neighbors especially, Kerry calling me and stuff like that, which was all these remediations that you had asked the neighbors, which was the crosswalk, double line going down Kernwood Heights. Unfortunately, truthfully, is the data show that there wasn't really any speeding. Now, perceptually, there's perception of this, but the data shows that there isn't. That's on a hidden box that was there for 1 week. Sergeant Henneberry purposely put it up at the bottom of Woodland heading towards Green Street.
At the bottom of Woodland.
That's coming from Ayers.
Yeah, that's not where the
towards-
speeding is. They come down the hill, they speed, they crest the hill, then their brakes hit. So, I mean, you put the box at the wrong spot.
So, but what I'm just giving you is where he had put it. I'm just giving you.
No, but you're also telling me what the data showed. And anecdotally, it's very obvious there's a lot of speeding happening. You see a driving school car by going where they're actually paying attention to what they're supposed to be doing, way slower than the other ones. Like, it's very obvious.
So I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. And what I have said to Sergeant Henneberry is there is only, I think, 2 or 3 signs throughout the whole city. And he does try to put them there. It is on the list to go to Woodland Ave. He was waiting for the data from the traffic study from the state, and he's not here tonight. He's out of state for training. So it is something that's on his list to actually have that sign, because it shows it. It also does give you a reading of what the traffic, as well as what the speed limits are. So it is on his list for that, but they did have the data, and I get what you're saying is you're going from coming up Green Street, going up to Woodland, and they're gaining speed. Is that what you're saying?
You go right down Woodland, you're going down the hill, you gain speed, then you have to go up the hill, and that's where they start braking. Like, of course, they're not going to be speeding right by the stop sign.
You're looking more mid-block.
Yeah, right at like 22, 20, that's where they're speeding.
No, we didn't. No, it wasn't. Yeah, no, it was right past Livingstone. Right past, it was.
Going up the hill?
Going down the hill, right past Livingstone. There was a telephone pole. Matter of fact, I think, Pat, you were there when we were putting it up. It was so it was right where the telephone pole is. Livingstone, you take the left, heading down Green
I
Street.
appreciate that you have data from that point. That
Yeah.
may not be where the speeding is. There is guaranteed there's speeding going on Woodland. There's a lot of it.
And I know
I just want to make this comment. Like, I appreciate, the efforts and everything. I feel like the default is to talk about study and this and that. And the default isn't, how can I help you? How can we make something happen? How can we truly prioritize safety?
So I know there's been requests for the signs, the speed signs. Legally speaking, so I know there's the 20 mile per hour right over here for the school zone. And I know that's not really all the time. But I don't know how far out that sign can legally go out as well.
That's only school zone, school
Right, it's a
times
school-
as
No,
well.
I get that. Would it help if a posted 25 mile per hour sign would be put there?
If people pay attention to it, I don't think so. What's going to help is
25
when I
per mile?
park on the street legally and everyone
Right.
has to go around, and it creates havoc at school time.
All right, thanks. Just a couple thoughts before the next person. There are a number of streets in this city that some people use it as a way to get from A to B, and other people call it home, right? And we've tried to put a focus on all of those streets all over town for the whole time I've been mayor. Chief can tell you, we meet fairly regularly to look at traffic activity, to look at where our officers are spending time and what they're seeing, and what kind of interactions they're having with people who are not driving safely. So we'll try to do more. That's resources, and we'll try to keep pushing. And one of the keys to doing traffic enforcement is going back to an area repeatedly, right? But not being predictable. It's like getting out there frequently enough, but being unpredictable in terms of when, because people who don't want to drive safely, or whose mind is elsewhere and aren't, they really need to be worried about being pulled over if they're going to drive safely through an area, right? So. Okay, thank you. You started with that, street design. So you were asking if there's something that could be done differently, because as you look at Woodland, you see it's inviting speed that is faster than you think is safe. Thank you for repeating that, and Jocelyn will follow on that. So thank you on that, and we will continue to try to keep enforcing. I guess let's go to the next person off that.
Thank you. My name is Kate. I live on Garfield Ave off of Western, so I'm in the same boat as Mr. Sudak. It is absolutely reprehensible to me that Western Ave and every street off of it has been torn up for, if I'm not mistaken, 3+ months now. The manhole covers, gas caps, everything else are still exposed. There's orange spray paint on them. That's great. It doesn't stop the fact that we literally have to swerve all up and down the roads, avoiding cars, avoiding people, avoiding pets, avoiding everything else. I understand that we're waiting on the weather and the contracts and whatever else we need to wait on. Since this bridge issue came up over the summer, everything I have seen has been reactive. There's nothing proactive happening from where I stand. At the last meeting, we talked about how all of this was slated to start 2027. Again, nothing had been prepared, even for the thing that was slated to be happening within the next few years. We've talked about all these other issues, and the response has just been reactive. I don't see anything proactive, and it's incredibly frustrating as a person who lives in Ryleside. And I understand the entire city is impacted by this. I don't think anyone needs any type of degree to understand that Ryleside is being hit the hardest. So every extra thing that's happening with Ryleside, whether it's the Bridge Street traffic, whether it's the traffic at the school, whether it's streets not being repaired, is a slap in the face to anyone who lives in our part of the city. And personally, I'm sick of the reactivity, and I'd like to hear commitments on when things are going to happen. This temporary, what we're talking about for Woodland Ave, where we can get some data, even if it's temporary, I would love to hear when and a committed date of like, when can we get this in place? When are we going to hear, back on some of these issues? Because it's just very frustrating to bring issues up and to have people bringing up very valid points and, we'll consider it. And then there's no commitment is what it feels like.
It's not the case, but I appreciate your sentiment on it. How do you folks want to get follow-up information? I know some of you we have email addresses for. I know others of you are part of the Ryleside Civic, and so what we push out to the Ryleside Civic leadership will land in your inbox. As I said, we're going to try to go back and take a better look at Woodland. You heard Commissioner Collins say we're waiting on the paving. I wish that it hadn't been taking this long. We've seen that happen with streets before. We've seen others get done more quickly. Sometimes, as Commissioner said, we're kind of at the mercy of a combination of the weather and the contractors who don't just work for us, but work in multiple communities. My hope is it'll be real soon, and then that street's going to be, an asset for decades. And, so at any rate, I don't mean to minimize. I hear what you're saying. Are you folks good with us continuing to push information out through the Ryleside Civic, through Councilor Rotundo, on our own social media? If you want any more kind of direct information, please give us your email addresses and we can use those as well.
So just to kind of respond to that, I, personally, I'm a member of the Ryleside Civic Association, so that's great. Councilman Rotundo has been absolutely excellent throughout this whole thing. This meeting was not even posted on like your Facebook page, to be honest. I find that kind of difficult. Like, this is an important venue for people to get concerns out there, and it was really only posted on the 01915 page and in Ryleside page. It was not on City of Beverly's official page or your page. So I think that's also something to maybe think about.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thanks. Sure, whoever you see.
Hi, I'm Anne Marie LeBeau, and I'm on Woodland Avenue. And I would just say about communications, tonight's meeting wasn't streamed out, and I don't understand that. I mean, it's a very simple technological thing in today's day and age to just stream it out. There's a number of people I know who wanted to be here but couldn't be. I travel a lot. I'm able to be here today, but I've had to, miss other ones. So I just think that should be an easy thing to do. Always stream them out.
Okay, appreciate that. BevCam can live stream from high school, middle school, City Hall, correct? If you folks would prefer that future meetings are in one of those other settings, probably one of the schools, because they've got bigger capacity, we'll do that instead of coming here. My initial thought was just to come into the neighborhood with the meeting, but I hear what you're saying. And folks who can't be here tonight, they will be able to watch it on BevCam, just not live. It will be, it will be broadcast, I'm guessing, a number of times. On YouTube by 11 a.m. tomorrow. But I hear your point. If you'd rather that future meetings be in a setting that can be live streamed as well, we can do that. Does that make sense to folks? Okay.
Hi. I just want to comment on the 20-year plan. I think that's kind of ludicrous that a whole cohort of people may not even be here in 20 years. So they'll never know life with normalcy again and safety, and another whole cohort of children will never know what Ryleside actually is because of this problem. So I think cutting down that timeline is essential. I personally think both bridges should just get junked and built at the same time, 5 years done. I don't think probably other people would agree with me on that, but the likelihood of Kernwood shutting down is so high. I mean, in the past three months, it's probably been shut down like 3 times, and then we're going to shut it down even more just to do superficial stuff, but just mechanical issues that keep cropping up are just going to become more and more frequent. So if we just plan on just shutting them both down, they're probably going to happen anyways. That's my opinion on the bridges, that they should just both go at the same time. And then Bridge Street, I personally prefer it just be held off. I think digging up another whole stretch, it's going to be a disaster. We're already dealing with disasters, and I don't think we should be creating another one for ourselves, which is our only route anywhere is Bridge Street. And to shut that down by digging it up, doing all this pipelines is just going to be awful. So those are kind of my 2 points about my ideas. And I think that there's no reason why a survey shouldn't be sent out. If there's a list of things that we can all like weigh in on, why can't we all get a mailing or something so everybody in the entire neighborhood can have input freely through a city mailing that says, what's your preferences for this, that, and the other thing? Because I feel like a lot of voices are here, and this is awesome, but there's a whole group of people who are working, can't get to these things, and don't feel like they have a say. So I feel like some sort of, even just a flyer at the voting is next week, like a flyer that says, what's your preferences? What do you guys want? I think there's no reason that can't happen.
Kate, I thank you. I do want to just comment on the 2 things. MassDOT, when they came and presented, they essentially put in front of us all a proposal that for the next 13 years, one or the other of the bridges would be unusable. Okay, so okay. Now I see where you're going. You're saying 13 isn't real, 20. Okay. All I can tell you is our job is to try to push and do the very best we can with you and for you. And so, we're not conceding any of that. We're going to push. The second thing, you talked about the Kernwood and the concerns with its reliability. Well, the 2 pieces of work that I tried to summarize earlier, one is for the travel deck, right? So it's the cars traveling across. The other set of work is to make repairs to the swing operation. And so the goal, their goal, MassDOT's goal, is to make sufficient repairs to keep that bridge functional and operational until we've got a temporary Hall Whitaker up and until they've gone through the design and permitting to go ahead and take that down and build a new one. A new Kernwood bridge. So that's MassDOT's goal with that work. Okay, okay, who's next?
I'm Liz Kenny. I live on Woodland also, and the cars are going fast. I don't know if they're actually going over the speed limit. I think some are. My question is, how can we slow them down? One idea would be put a stop sign like where Livingstone and Woodland are, so they have to stop and then they can go, The other idea is, I know where Route 97 is, that area they have, you can't go in those areas on certain times of the day, and not,
you're talking about a no, do not enter between this and this hour, right?
Yes,
right.
And I was wondering if we could do something like that to just minimize how many cars are going up and down Woodland. I know as a cut through from Salem and everywhere. Or maybe even a speed bump.
Okay, thank you. Let me just do this. We've got, you'll be next, and then, I'm sorry, then you'll be next. I know you've had your hand, and then you'll be after that. Okay, thanks. Go ahead.
Matt Silva, Folger Ave. I'm looking at I was at the meeting for 2.5 hours a couple of weeks ago, and what they talked about at the end of the meeting was somebody stood up and said something about thinking outside the box. And so, we have a 13-year timeline, and 80% of that timeline is permitting. And so, if you want to attack something, we got to go after the permitting. I mean, there's no 2 ways about that. And so I think we have one advantage, and the advantage is there are many bridges in the country that need to be replaced, And so the problem that we have in Ryle Side is all over the country. So I'll use an example. We have the Army Corps of Engineers. I think the timeline on theirs with permitting was about 18 months just with them. Part of that had to do with the fish spawning and everything else. So if you want to solve a problem, as somebody mentioned, I think at the last meeting, let's start at the top, drill down instead of starting at the bottom, and drilling up. So I would say Army Corps of Engineers, who's the top guy at the Army Corps of Engineers? Let's get some people around him, U.S. senators, whatever they are, and really start thinking big, because small is going to be 13 years. There's got to be a way through starting at the top to get people around these people to lose their job and to go national with the fact that they're taking 18 months because of a fish spawning or whatever it is. Create some slogans, create some things, create some noise, and make the Army Corps of Engineers and everybody else, the Coast Guard, that's causing these permitting going on for 13 years to be exposed. And I think the word is exposed. And then see what that does to the timeline and start hitting them one at a time. And that's all I got.
Thanks, Matt. Right over here.
I'm Judy Rose, Woodland Avenue again. You asked how to communicate. I know this meeting was not posted on the city website until yesterday. I called. I wonder if you can do a robocall to, and this affects the entire city. This isn't just Ryle Side. We have a lot of people coming from downtown that are crossing over our streets. So could you do a robocall to inform people when the next meeting is? And that would at least get a lot of information out.
Okay. No, that's a great point, Judy. Yep, thank you. Thank you much. This gentleman there, and then the woman in the back.
It's on. I had a couple of questions, but Mass DOT has been through it a lot. Do they have an idea about what's going to take the longest? I mean, is it going to be environmental? Are we going to be waiting for the mud puppies to make it upstream?
So, as I said, I think what we figured out is, they were looking to do a temp bridge in the same footprint as the bridge they closed, right? Because that could go through what they call an expedited permit process. To go into a new footprint adds permitting, and that's why they weren't looking at an offset bridge. We're pushing them there because, as I said earlier, we're all in agreement, I think, that once the temp bridge is functional, we don't want it torn down so that they can then build the permanent. So I don't know the answer to your question of, which piece of it do they fear or feel could take the longest. I think, as I said at the outset, we're trying to get access. We're trying to school ourselves on what they do every day and what they know, so we can have a better handle on how to shorten any given piece of it, right? So I'm sorry I can't give you a real substantive answer on. I just don't know which takes the longest.
So somebody has a question about the infrastructure on
The
infrastructure on Bridge Street, because we live off of East Garfield, and Beverly Public Utilities was on East Garfield, and they didn't know where the water pipe was. And so they wound up doing a little hopscotch all the way up the street like this in order to find the water pipe. Turns out that one of my neighbors used to work for Beverly Public Utilities, and they had to ask him where the water pipe was. And I can't imagine going down all of Bridge Street looking for the water pipe.
Okay. So I know it was also, there have been a couple people, both tonight and at the prior meeting, who aren't looking forward to the Bridge Street reconstruction project, who've said that. The infrastructure that we're looking to try to make sure is what you need it to be, the water and sanitary sewer infrastructure, I mean, those improvements need to happen from time to time, right? And so that's a part of this. The the redesign of the street is meant to be safer for all who use it. The stormwater, stormwater management system, it's all should be vastly improved. And so, nobody likes construction when it's happening. I get that. But I just, want to make that point. When that project does start, those are some of the, real core goals of it. Jocelyn, you all set?
Hi, my name is Annie. I live up on Kernwood Heights, mom of 3 under 7. Couple quick clarification questions. I was at the October 11th meeting, and I think we were told that the traffic officer would be here tonight, and I just wanted to check and see if that happened.
So Sergeant Henneberry was at that meeting on the 11th. He's currently not in town. He's actually away for work. He's training, right? So he and Chief Elisha talked at some length this morning before tonight's meeting. I mean, it's not that hard to talk with him. If you want to talk with him as a follow-on tonight, we'll put you in touch with him. If you have a question you want Chief or me to try to field right now, we can try to do that as well.
I think it's tough to know where we should be directing questions to, but one, I have maybe a MassDOT question. However, at the last meeting, there was a lot of talk about the wires that were laid across the streets, one up on Kernwood Heights and all throughout, one on Woodland, et cetera. We were told that those were counting cars. So to determine how many cars are crossing over these streets compared to what was crossing over the streets before the closing of the bridge.
Right.
I'm a little confused about what was being talked about with the secret speed traps that were determining the speed of the cars going by. So I just am curious about the difference between those two things.
Yep. No, and you really said it. The wires you saw, they were put in place by the state to count the number of cars that were going across them. That was to get, and that's the data that we just got in late last week from them that's now on the city website. So that's straight counts. The conversation we had a few minutes ago was about how at various points around the city, when concerns are raised, we're able to put these pieces of equipment out that'll actually, check speeds as cars come through. And so you gather data about number of cars and speed.
I think that makes total sense. I love the idea. Mm-hmm. At the bottom of Woodland, heading on to 62, I wouldn't assume that speed is the biggest issue, given the fact that it's basically a parking lot down there at the busiest times of day. However, coming up Kernwood Ave, over Bridge Street, down Kernwood Heights, up and down Kernwood Heights, that would be an interesting place to test the speed, because I live there, and not during those busy commuter times. Cars are flying up and down the streets, at a ridiculous speed. And so it's just I so appreciate all that you guys are doing, and I trust that the job that you have is a lot harder than all of us who come together and ask you hard questions. I appreciate all that you're doing to stand there and field these questions. But if there is a speed tracker at the bottom of Woodland compared to at these places that we're all seeing cars speed by, it seems a little incorrectly placed, okay? And therefore, when people are asking, what can we do to help that situation, to be responded to with, we put a speed tracker at the bottom of one of the slowest areas
Right.
during
No,
commuter
I will.
traffic. What about temporary speed bumps? Concrete speed bumps being put in on these streets that are leading to the school, where kids are walking to and from school each day, and people are trying to get places in a safe manner. I live on Kernwood Heights, and if I'm trying to take a left into my own driveway, cars are trying to pass over the newly painted double yellow line to get to where they're going. And it just seems like there's a lot of concrete objects that could be placed in certain places, which I know we've talked a lot about tonight, so I don't want to harp upon an issue that you feel like has already been asked. It sometimes feels like we're all here wasting our time in a way, and I ask that in a sincere manner, as an honest, sincere citizen who appreciates what you do. I'm just trying to figure out how we can help between now and however many years it takes to put in a new bridge.
No, appreciate that. Look, And none of us are here to waste anyone's time. I mean, we're trying to get this sorted, and we're trying to make progress each time that we talk together and try to do any of this work. Just to clarify one more time on the equipment that was put out to check speeds along Woodland. It was not placed at the bottom of any hill. It was placed, as I'm understanding, just past the intersection, the T intersection of Livingstone and Woodland, heading away from the school, just past it?
That is pretty much
Okay.
where you're at.
Okay. And we talked about how we
Stop
can.
sign there. It's just like, it should be a stop there versus putting it in a place where cars are moving past.
I'm going to ask Councilor Tondo to just clarify where a couple of these boxes were put and data was gathered. And look, with that said, we can look at doing more. We can look at, at a little different spot, if that makes sense. And we'll be talking about this with Chief and with Sergeant as a follow-on to the meeting. Councilor.
Thank you. So I just texted Sergeant Henneberry. He is up and doing training, but I wanted him to be aware of some of the concerns, specifically the box. So the box on Woodland was, as soon as you take the left, there's a telephone pole there. It was at that intersection. Off of Livingstone. Off of Livingstone, take a left, going down, heading towards Green Street. So the box was there.
You realize the distance. Do you know that area well?
I do.
Okay, so the distance between that spot and Woodland is so short that there's no way to speed your car up before you take a right.
No, I understand what you're saying.
Okay,
but
so like
to
if you're
grab it from
talking about
Kernwood
a
Heights.
straightaway from Kernwood Avenue Bridge all the way up and over Kernwood Heights, you can get some major speed going. And
So I wanted to finish this.
it just seems like a silly spot to put a speed measure.
No, he also put one on Kernwood Heights as well as on Livingstone. So they were put in all three
Okay,
areas.
I didn't know that.
No,
I'd
that's
love
why
to hear
I'm just
the-
getting all confirmation for you right now.
Okay, so what I would love is to know how I can directly look at the data that has been gathered.
He
Because
has all that
We
data
were
for you?
told at the last meeting that there would be a clear way to look at a report or where the data has been gathered, and now, the first part of this meeting talked about a speed situation at that spot. Now you're telling me that there is one on Kernwood Heights, which is great to hear. It's confusing. I'd love to see it.
So to clarify it is, I will make sure that the traffic sergeant simplifies the data. Because the data goes over the course of 7 days, 24 hours, but it gives you averages of how much the speeds are, top speeds. It gives percentiles and all that. He dumbed it down for me so I could understand it. And what was shown was majority of the cars were within reasonable range of the traffic speed. And he's actually sat out there and monitored. He's had traffic patrol it and sit there and have guns to make sure that was the case. Now
Quick question. I'm so
Okay.
sorry to interrupt.
No
I really
worries.
am. I just don't want to take up more time than I've already been given. Quick question.
Mm-hmm.
The speed that's being assessed at commuter hours, when the volume of traffic and cars, to me would seem like a very different thing than the speed being assessed late at night and at dangerous times on weekends where there's not that school traffic, work traffic, those kinds of things. No one is concerned about the speed at 7:20 in the morning. The concern at 7:20 in the morning is that it is taking 3 times as long for us to get anywhere that we would be trying to go. The speed is a concern at times of day where it is so dangerous at dusk to be flying in and out of these neighborhood areas. So again, I trust, if you're telling me that these are the things that are being assessed with monitoring devices, I would love to know where we can look at that, because October 11th was the first meeting we discussed it. Here we are on November 1st, and it just feels like a lot of circling around in the same conversation. And I mean that in the most sincere way, because I really appreciate all the hard work that you guys put in, that we're not putting in. And so I'm not asking in a combative way. I'm just
I understand.
sincerely curious.
So the box is monitored 24 hours a day. So it's not at just during the school time hours.
So we should have that
The
that
data's
data by
available.
now, because at the last meeting, MassDOT said, we sent that over to you. So you should have that information.
So let's put I appreciate the conversation. I just want to try to put a wrap on it. The data from MassDOT is the data of cars just traveling up the street. That's just the counts of vehicles. They hadn't given it to us prior to that meeting. We got it 2 2 weeks after that meeting last Thursday.
Okay.
All right, it was something we kept asking for, and we finally got it last Thursday. That's different from this data. Chief is looking at some of it right now. We can absolutely easily share it. It might make most sense to share it, and we can share it in the meantime, but it might make most sense to have a meeting, if anybody wants to come, to just look at that together, because then it'll make more sense if and as it can be explained by Chief and by Sergeant Henneberry.
That
make
sounds
sense?
great. And if somebody can convince me that the cars are keeping a similar speed as before, I'm open-minded to listening to that.
And I have concerns everywhere that people cut through other people's neighborhoods. I do. I have a concern on your street for that same reason. The enforcement really matters, and that's why I said earlier, and I'll say it again, we're going to keep trying to come back with more enforcement. We can and will. How many people would be interested in being part of a conversation specifically about that? Okay, let's get a time. Counselor, the Ryleside Civic folks will put a time together sometime in the next couple weeks, as soon as we can get it scheduled, to look at that together. That work? Okay. All right, thanks.
Thanks.
Test. My name's Sean. I live on Winthrop Ave, right at the top of the hill up there. I travel this bridge 4 times a day to work at Salem Plumbing. Every day I go on this bridge. One thing I haven't heard yet is the concern with all of road debris and trash coming in from all these cars. As a guy who walks and rides his bike and also walks my animals, I have 3 dogs, so my wife and I walk around this entire neighborhood, Woodland, around here, all around. Is there any plan to start street sweeping, cleaning up on the bridge? There's glass, there's road debris, there's nails. Do we have any plan for that to start getting this operation going? Maybe if we see some street sweepers, maybe we'll get excited. I don't know. Something has to happen here besides 3 meetings and us talking about it. Someone had to fall. There's just a lot of trash, Mr. Mayor. There is in our neighborhood, especially in Ryleside right here. And I don't know if it's the influx of trash. Our contractor for picking up the trash, whether or not they're leaving trash all over the road. I literally see trash everywhere just coming from my 5-minute commute to work. I am blessed, it's only 5 minutes, sorry. But there is truly a lot of trash, so I'm just wondering if there was any type of plan to start maybe picking up some of the trash. I know that's municipality, but street sweeping, anything to get some of the road debris out of the road when the dogs are walking, there's glass on the sidewalk and on the road. It's almost no safe place to walk now.
It's literally the first complaint we've ever heard about that, so.
Hey, all right, I like being the first. Seriously, everybody here has dogs. Anybody walk your dogs are concerned by all the glass on the road and the sidewalk? It is truly something that's happening because of the amount of cars driving down the road.
Right this particular time of year, we sort of parked the street sweeper for a couple of weeks because we can go about 5 feet and it's full of leaves. So we're kind of handicapped with what we can do right this second with the sweeper, but in a couple of weeks we'll be back out there and we try to get everything cleaned up nice for the winter. When the leaves get all mashed up and they don't take up, like I said, we literally can't move with the street sweeper without it getting packed with leaves. So we will be back out shortly. It just takes a couple of more weeks for the leaves to stop and then get wet enough and mashed up enough by the cars and just time and whatnot, but
fair enough. I thought my question was kind of stupid and mundane, but I don't know. It was
no.
I am seeing a lot of trash. I really am. I'm walking the dogs. I'm like, no, come over here. Even in the road,
we're out in Ryleside all the time too. I generally don't find it to be that trashy a place. So point taken.
It wasn't like this a few months ago. That's
take a look around.
I appreciate that.
I actually have a bridge question. My understanding is we're possibly in the process of permitting right now for a temporary bridge that's going to be offset. Then they will rebuild Kernwood and then go back and build a permanent bridge, and the permanent bridge will be in the same position it is currently in.
So if you remember, we started pushing them a while back about a new permanent Whitaker bridge going over to Federal Street. If they are able to offset a temporary bridge, I think it's their preference to go with the existing geometry, right of way for a permanent
For the
replacement.
permanent
And that
bridge.
may well be where it ends, where it lands.
So we're getting permits for 3 bridges consecutively?
Correct.
A temporary bridge, a permanent Hall Whitaker, and a permanent Kernwood at the same time?
So they can't start trying to permit a temporary bridge until they decide on where it will go. And that's why they're right now in that exploratory phase of figuring out, can they do it? And we're pushing. We all are saying they got to get to go, right, and start moving. So right now, I hope it's not much longer at all in terms of weeks before there's some meeting of the minds, right, on an offset path for a temporary Hall Whitaker Bridge. But there's no permitting right yet because they don't have a design to put forward.
In my opinion, it's probably not a very popular one. I do agree with the woman who was over there that I think we should just rip the Band-Aid right off now, do a permanent Hall Whitaker Bridge,
So
and not make this a 20-year process. If at least we get a Hall Whitaker Bridge in 5 to 6 years, and that's being generous, at least we would have access to Salem via the, I'm old enough to say it's the old McDonald Bridge. And then we can fix Kernwood, but at least Ryle Side will be able to get downtown and through Salem, Marblehead, Swampscott, in that direction without having to drive, which I've had to do several times this summer, off Western Avenue through that construction that literally has been since March. Come down through there, get onto the Kernwood Bridge, only to find out it's closed for me to get to Marblehead. Now I have to backtrack, go through Danvers and, 128. At least if we had the Hall Whitaker Bridge open, we'd shop downtown, we'd go to restaurants downtown because it wouldn't take us 45 minutes to get downtown from Ryle Side. So my vote would be rip the Band-Aid off, do it all now, one permanent bridge, and not permit for 2 different bridges, 3 different bridges all at the same time.
Thank you.
Good evening. I just wanted to say thank you first to the police chief. I have noticed a police presence on Kernwood Heights, and I wanted to say thank you for that. My name is Matt. I live at 6 Kernwood Heights, about 4 doors down from my neighbor. What she didn't really tell you is that she lives on the top of the hill, and it makes me sick to my stomach when I see the cars flying up there because she has young kids, and you can't see when you're coming up over that hill what's there. That's when you see a lot of cars slam the brakes on. I know he mentioned he doesn't feel safe. I think a lot of the majority of the people in here are trying to tell you that we just don't feel safe. The bridge is even the biggest concern right now. And I think as a community, we're asking you, what can you do? I mean, you have this guy up here who just said, well, we don't want to waste resources. I mean, if there's an opportunity to waste resources, this is it. You need a win. We're throwing you a softball. We just want to feel safe in our neighborhoods. We want our kids to feel safe. And again, I'm going to sound redundant, and 5 other people are probably going to say the same thing, but it's what everybody's thinking. And I just feel when you're talking about, we put this thing here to count the cars, and we put this thing here to count the speed limits, that just sounds like you're building an argument against why you don't need to implement things to make us feel safer.
No, if I could, let me just say in that point, MassDOT counted the traffic because you and us all said they had to, right? Sergeant went out with the speed counters because we all said that we needed that information. So nobody's looking to just gather numbers and look at them. But
that's all been done so far.
So, no, there's been a lot.
I will tell you, last night during Trick or Treat, I did Kernwood Heights, Livingston, Rowell, on our street, Kernwood, right in front of her house. I was with a flashlight flagging people down because they're flying. The kids are crossing the street. Why am I, as a citizen, slowing down traffic? I mean, if there was ever a night for police presence in this neighborhood, last night would have been it. It's just, we don't feel satisfied. I just don't feel like people are getting the answers they want. And I know the studies and the permits and all this stuff is what needs to happen, but You know, just putting somebody out there goes a long way, more than 5-10 minutes at a time.
A lot of police resources have been focused in and around the neighborhood. I'm hearing that you need more.
Thank you.
And I think, thank you. So we'll just keep pushing to get resources there.
Hey, Mike. Quick question. The previous meeting, they had the temporary bridge sweeping out to the left going over towards Federal Street, I think it was. Are they going to run, is the new plan to put the temporary bridge right beside the existing bridge because it would speed up the permitting process?
So I think what you're referring to is we've been pushing them and actually have raised this with them for years, the idea that the permanent bridge should run over towards Federal Street and a four-way intersection at Federal. I think that's really what you saw.
Okay.
That's not something MassDOT was looking for. They initially were talking about the temporary bridge in the same footprint as the existing closed bridge.
Going right beside it?
Not right beside it. Now they're talking about potential for putting it right beside it, which we raised from the first conversation with them in June, but they said they couldn't do it. They said they couldn't do it really because they're afraid of the additional permitting requirements taking more time. I don't want to put words in their mouth, so probably just leave it at that. Initially, they said they couldn't offset a temp bridge next to it. Now they're saying they're looking hard at it because we've told them, we all have told them, you made it clear to them during the meeting, that building a bridge, to use it for a few years and tear it back down to not have a bridge, well, the next one got built, just doesn't work for you, right? And so now we hope we're close, to an offset, like I said, coming down bridge, swinging just enough away from the footprint to get across and back in, that can work for a temporary bridge.
Okay, and that would supposedly speed up the permitting process, correct, for the temporary?
It might make it a little harder to meet their timeline of 4 years, right? Because there would be some environmental permitting that wouldn't happen if they put it in the same footprint.
Okay.
But I think that on balance, people would rather, if it takes a little longer to get the temp in place, better to get it in and not have to tear it out.
Okay. So last part, based on logistics, to kick that bridge just right beside the existing footprint, who loses their land? The people on the residents up on Rile's side or the commercial ones on the river side, River Street side of the bridge?
Right. It would either be just downstream or just upstream, right? And so the question, and I've got to look more closely at, what would it take for 2 11-foot width lanes and a 5-foot sidewalk to be?
Well, the car wash lot and Moynihan's lot both abut right to the edge of the bridge. And on the Bridge Street side of the river, you've got 2 residential properties within 25 feet of that bridge. So I'm just wondering who loses their property, whether it's the commercial people or the residential.
I don't know how tight the residential properties are on the lower side of Bridge Street to where they need to go. But if it's downstream, you're right, it would come on that side, and then it would be.
Either way, that it's got to come out onto the River Street side somewhere.
Oh, yes.
And those 2 properties are right tight to the bridge, to the existing bridge. So it's going to cut through one of their properties.
If it's going to be offset, there are going to be some temporary easements, takings, whatever term you use. And temporary isn't going to be like a temporary easement for construction where it would be for a year or 2. It will be temporary for the life of the temporary bridge,
Till
right?
2034.
Look,
Sorry,
we're all here in 100% sincerity of trying to do this with you. I hear the skepticism on timelines. All we can do is our very best on it. So.
Thanks. Hi. I just wanted to follow up on the comment about using road design for slowing traffic down. I think that's a great idea. I think with what you've already have on plans, I think for Bridge Street, kind of jut outs like you'd have on Cabot Street are a strategy that you could do today to make all the intersections come out using either barriers or cones. I wonder if that's a strategy you could start doing, in the immediate future? And then as another follow-up, I'm just wondering if there's comments from the state reps on what they're doing to expedite the permitting.
I'll say two things. So I'm hearing you ask for some of those strategies in a temporary fashion on Bridge that are built into the bigger project. I don't thank you for raising it. I'd have to bring it back and understand how can that be done? How could it be done? I'll let these folks speak, but I mean, there's no permitting happening yet because MassDOT and we have to get an agreement on what to try to do for a temp bridge, right? And then the only permitting that we know of right now is MassDOT trying to do some environmental permitting for the Kernwood Bridge repairs, which, we just became aware of the fact that they're into that process today. So, you folks want to?
Thanks. And I would just say that we talked to the governor's office. We're going to have a new governor, and we both know Kim Driscoll very well and have talked to her about it. And so if she's our next lieutenant governor, obviously she's from Salem, is aware of the situation, so we've talked to her about it. The Coast Guard Admiral for the 1st District, which covers from Maine to New York, his house is at Hospital Point in Beverly. I've actually run into him and talked to him about it as well. So we're trying to get the word out to everybody that we can. Talk to Senator Markey's office and Senator Warren's office as well to let them know about the concerns that we're having. So we're doing everything we can to try to get it speed up as much as possible.
Yeah, and taking, excuse me, and taking a team approach with the city, obviously, to be able to really, we're pushing this every day, every week. Working with the mayor, working with the city council. I want to say thank you to Councilor Rotundo. He is sending all of your comments, questions to us. Thank you, Councilor. As a former ward councilor, I know I used to walk in his shoes. He's doing a great job. So we will continue to push. We know how devastating this has been to the Ryleside community. I'm a Beverly native. I know the city really well. And so we will continue to push for all of you and really appreciate all these comments tonight. This is extremely helpful. I'm taking notes. I have my staff here as well taking notes. And we will work very closely with the city. But please know that we're on this every day. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Jocelyn. Oh, I'm sorry. Hi.
Heather Richter. My question is really about the process and about who signs off on the final design. Is it MassDOT or is it the city or is it the state? And how much control does the city really have over the final product?
So I think we're feeling our way in trying to find all this out. It's state property. The bridges are state property. At the same time, I don't think any of us will be satisfied with a design that doesn't work for the neighborhood and the community. I don't think anybody at MassDOT is looking, to travel a path that doesn't. I mean, I feel like there's been good faith with this team at MassDOT as we've been working with them these past months, and we're looking to find the right answers for the community. Your question specifically about who has final sign-off on design, I'm going to have to get back to you on that, Heather. As I said, I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's a state asset, but again, it's in our community, it's in your neighborhood, so we're going to keep making those points and try to make sure that what comes out of it is right for the neighborhood and the community.
Thank you. My concern is just that MassDOT doesn't know our neighborhood and doesn't know our community and doesn't really know what we need necessarily. So that was my question.
No, I appreciate that, Heather. Thank you.
Just a follow-up on that. I appreciate that she's most likely going to be the next lieutenant governor, but there is an election coming up. So has there been any effort made, or is the Republican opponent just completely written off? Because there is a possibility, as remote as it may be, that we could have a Republican governor and lieutenant governor, and I hope that you reach out to them as well in the event that there's an upset. I mean, again, there's an election.
I would say, no, it's a great point. You know, whoever's going to serve next has got to win an election. Whoever are the governor and lieutenant governor-elect, they're going to be hearing from all of us within a day or two of the election. Let's say the next morning. And I don't know if they're all going to be at work the next morning, but they'll hear from us the next day. And the goal is to try to have them in here to make sure, you know, in the community, seeing and gaining a really, you know, as quickly as possible an understanding of what we all are trying to make happen, right? You know, what you're contending with on a daily basis and what we're all shooting for. And you know, getting these two bridges replaced in a way that the neighborhood can, you know, that you can all move forward with. No, thank you. Where are we at, Jocelyn? Hey.
Ron Gennard, 1 Melvin Avenue, Beverly. I've lived in the Ryle side all my life. First of all, the state mentioned the last time, at that meeting they had, that they were in the process of designing the bridge. How are they designing a bridge and they don't know what it's going to be yet? Do you really think that they're designing that bridge right now? Because I don't. I think they're just wasting time. Second of all, we should have all these meetings at the Beverly High School, not local schools, not City Hall. Everybody in Beverly is affected by this, everybody. Goats Hill especially, but we don't hear from Goats Hill unless we go to one of their meetings at City Hall. So we should all be together, okay? Second of all, we really need a meeting with the DOT and the Corps of Engineers and the Coast Guard all at one time to see if everybody's on the same page. You know that the DOT hasn't been in touch with the Corps of Engineers yet because they got to design the bridge. They got permits to go through. So we got to wait for 2 years for them to pass this on to the Corps of Engineers. And then the Corps of Engineers will drag their rear end for a couple of years because nobody's under pressure. And then we get to the Coast Guard that says, no, let's just build the bridge, get it over with once and for all. That's it. We're wasting time. That's my
Thank you, Ron. And I think, you know, one thing we do within the city with proposed projects is we put a project review team together of various department heads so that they can get answers to questions about, you know, somebody wants to do this with their property. Well, what's required? What's possible? What's not possible? What's required? So there are no surprises. In talking with the folks at MassDOT, we've been talking through trying to get the various federal agencies together with MassDOT and with us to have those very conversations to try to lay the foundation so as you said, Ron, there aren't surprises when somebody hasn't been brought in early enough. So we are looking to try to coordinate that and make it happen in the coming weeks. Yeah. Jocelyn, and then somebody over here as well, a couple people over here after. Yep, hi.
Hi, I live over on Weston Ave, and I just wanted to find out, is there going to be someone or a group of people that are going to be able to back up if something slows down, a permit can't get through, now we're going to wait 3 weeks because there's something wrong that we could do more quickly, you know, than waiting out things? Because, I mean, with any construction, you always have, you know, side things that come up. And I don't want to hear that this one didn't, oh, I didn't know about that. And it's been sitting on somebody's table or desk for 3 weeks. You know, even that 3 weeks, it could be done. That's all.
Yeah. No, it's a great point. These are the kind of things we're trying to get ourselves very quickly kind of crash course versed in these particular different permitting processes that, you know, we don't go through all the time. You know, Commissioner Collins can tell you, you know, we do a lot of our own projects, right? And we're forever setting goals and on timelines and trying to meet them and trying to beat them. And, you know, so we know what we want to try to accomplish in gaining an understanding of these processes and then diving in on them. And we're all going to be doing it together. And so, your point is exactly what we worry about and we want to try to prevent is any slippage or, something as simple as somebody gets it to the next step and then somebody at the next step isn't ready for it, right? Doesn't pick it right up. Yeah, we'll be working to try to prevent those slowdowns. Mm-hmm.
Hi, Andrea from 8 Riverview. I first want to thank you guys for the time that you are here. The last couple of meetings, I appreciate hearing it. I know it's probably a lot, and we appreciate being heard. I do want to ask if there is anything that we can do to help channel our energy to support the work that you're doing. I'm happy to write a letter to whomever if there's someone that can give us some names, similar to what we were hearing before. If there are names and addresses, emails, phone numbers, I'm sure there are other people who would be interested and willing to talk about the inconveniences, the safety concerns that we're having, the impact, what our hopes are. If that is something that you guys could share with us, I think we would be interested and able to help you.
Appreciate that, Andrea. Thank you. Don't know how to answer it right now, but we'll keep it in mind. But I hear you. You want to be able to weigh in where it makes a difference. Being here matters, obviously, and these conversations are, I think, moving us. So, thanks. Mike?
Hi, I'm Mike Reynolds, East Garfield Avenue. I'm confused on why this bridge was closed in respect to the bridge inspection contract. Cora Corporation inspected that bridge for 8 years, 10 years that I can remember, made temporary repairs to it, and it always had a very poor rating. That contract changed hands, and the new company, on the second time they looked at it, condemned it. What was the prior company doing, and is there any recourse against them?
Not something I know the answer to, Mike.
Okay.
But I mean, you raised it. Let's look into it.
Okay.
I can say from what MassDOT explained, right, is that something was flagged in the most recent inspection that led to that deeper dive process.
For the last probably 5 years, the bridge has had the same consistent horrible rating. So something that a new company looked at rose the red flag and said no. So was it there before and maybe Cora Corp just kept taking the money? I'm just curious.
No, thanks for raising
Okay.
it.
The next thing, Kernwood Bridge currently, I believe, has the same poor rating that triggered this more in-depth examination of Whitaker. When is Kernwood getting that same closer examination?
I don't know. You know that question was raised on the meeting on the 11th, and I think this package of repairs that they're trying to fast track through is meant to ensure that that bridge does what it needs to do until they're ready to build the new one. But I hear you, I do.
Okay. The next thing, a temporary bridge might be the biggest colossal waste of time, energy, and taxpayer money. The Route 107 in Lynn, there's a temporary bridge that in 2013 cost almost $12 million, and it broke the first time they opened it. Now they're building, in 2021 they started the full-time bridge, permanent bridge, for almost $88 million. So the temporary bridge money in 2013 dollars versus today's dollars is probably $25 million. That's just getting thrown away if it's a temporary bridge. Would you agree?
It would be an investment that would serve for a period of time, and then it would be, you'd have to look at it as being amortized over that period of usefulness, right?
Okay, so the period of usefulness is undetermined. If it took from 2013 to 2021 for the bridge in Lynn to actually get designed and built. It's still not done. Where's that going to leave us with this bridge project? It's going to go on forever. I believe the last bridge in Massachusetts that came in sooner than the contract called for and under budget was the Tobin Bridge in 1950, I think. I just don't see this going well if a temporary bridge is put up, which I don't think the Coast Guards are going to allow if it doesn't open. I just think it's a gigantic waste of everyone's time, effort, and money.
Okay.
Just my opinion.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
That's what we're here for.
Can I, and thank you, Mike. I do want to say, prior to the MassDOT deciding they had to close the Hall Whitaker, it was not their intention to do anything with Hall Whitaker first. It was their intention to replace the Kernwood with a permanent replacement first and the Hall Whitaker second. You know, it's because they closed Hall Whitaker that we started pushing them to say, you got to do Hall Whitaker first. I do believe that some of the thinking, and nobody said this directly straight out to me, so this is just kind of interpreting, right? But you know, the concerns they have with the Kernwood and making sure it holds up until they can replace it are real. I believe they being the MassDOT folks have seen a significantly longer timeline to a permanent replacement bridge than a temporary. I don't know how many years different, but you know, you're suggesting that we would be better off going to a permanent Hall Whitaker replacement. As I said, the reason that before they had to close the Hall Whitaker, they weren't interested in doing the Hall Whitaker first was because they're worried about the Kernwood lasting until they replace it. So, you know.
Well, if the Kernwood closes, it's going to eliminate a lot of traffic coming from Salem. So I see that as a good thing.
All right. Yeah. Anything else? Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Others? Yep. We got a couple towards this area. Yep. You're right down here.
Peg Conlon, Hillside Avenue. I have concerns about how pedestrians are going to get around once the bridge is shut down and we don't have that one route. Is the city looking into some kind of alternative measures so that we're not all getting in our cars or walking to Elliott to even just get to Rantoul?
Do you mean when the Hall Whitaker, I'm not sure I'm following.
Well, for example, we just had a gentleman earlier say that he has a 5-minute walk across the bridge to go to work. Once that bridge is shut down and we don't have that pedestrian access anymore, what's our alternative?
Right, so my understanding is that if we're able to see a temporary bridge that's offset, permitted and built, that there'll be an ability to keep walking and biking over the existing bridge until that one opens. I don't know that for certain, and you raise it, so I think we've got to go back and ask that question again. And I hear why it's a concern. So we'll, you know, best case scenario, you could keep on going over the existing bridge by bike and foot until a temp gets opened. But we've got to push that line of questioning with them too. Thanks.
Hey everyone, Colin Navon, 12 Winthrop. I was just wondering, is there any way to reinforce the existing Hall Whitaker Bridge in the next 2 to 3 years while we look at a path to actually fix it? I mean, they apparently did research, they figured out what was wrong with it. Maybe we can get some engineers down there and put a temporary patch on it, and then we can actually drive over it again.
It's thanks for bringing it up. It's something that we've asked from day one. We have a 6-page letter that there were some people up there. We have a 6-page letter that was written by some of the engineers to the MassDOT secretary saying why that's not possible. So if you want to give that a look, I mean, it's frustrating. We've all asked the same question, but they have made the argument, made the case that structurally that they can't. So. Yep, Steve.
Hi, Steve Bissell. Just a follow-up on the pedestrian access. Is there any reason why we can't design and permit for getting rid of the Whitaker Bridge and replacing it and doing a temporary pedestrian access across it all at the same time so that when all the permitting is done, we can, A, put the temporary access for the pedestrians to be able to travel across, which would actually be very simple because they could go from the upside stream over to where the car wash is, and that could be a very easy pedestrian access, and then build the permanent bridge in its place and have all the permitting process done at the same time so we're not going out of the footprint, but yet we're doing a temporary for just the pedestrians because that's going to be probably the most inconvenient people out of this whole area right now because the bridge is gone, so let's replace it, but we still need for pedestrians to be able to pass back and forth. And if we did a temporary access in that for the people, I think it would alleviate a lot of problems and kind of move the whole process up a little faster. Just a thought, that's all.
Thanks, Steve.
Then there's a man back there who's waiting also. Okay.
Hi, I'm Paula Powers from 32 Carver Street. I just want to go back to the traffic on Woodland and coming out down onto Elliott Street. You go down Green. Is there any way you can put police or some sort of, like traffic cop as if you're doing construction, in the morning for people that are working and also the school traffic? We all are facing a problem living there and coming across, but people coming from Elliott Street, coming from Davis, they don't care. I counted 20 cars before I could have one car come out. Can't one car go, then another car go? Nobody is kind, nobody cares, and you just sit there, literally sit there, and so it backs all the way up. So just wondering if there could be something in the morning, maybe, I don't know what time, maybe 7:30 till 8:30?
This has been raised before. Do you folks have a clear sense on when the worst backup is?
Well, I leave for work at
the bottom of
7:30.
Green?
And if I don't leave, actually I leave at 7:20 now to get to work that's 5 minutes away at 8 o'clock. So, I mean, that's kind of a problem when I'm on Carver and I only have to go down Livingston to Woodland to Green.
So 7:30 to...
This is more for Elliott Street, though. I'm just talking about getting out onto Elliott. No, I know. I understand. Right. No, I'm just talking about something different. But I agree with you on your issue.
Okay, let me take that back. The chief's hearing you as well. One of the things we've been concerned with is trying to overpromise and that you can't necessarily deliver somebody on site every day. But, is it something to try? Let's take that back.
Or just do a study and see.
Yeah. You're talking, so 7:30 to 7:50 to 8 o'clock. 7:40 to 8:10. Maybe 7:30. I'm hearing you. It's during that window when people start bringing their kids to school as well as
people
mixing
are trying
in.
to just carry on their lives, go to work, do whatever they have to do.
Absolutely. Okay. All right.
Bring their other kids out of school.
Let's look at that, Chief. We'll talk about it tomorrow.
Another thought would be if you made one of the streets one way.
When they come out of Hannah School, they only can take a right during certain hours. When they go to North Beverly, they can only go up Oakhurst, I think it is, Department. It's one way. Is there a way to make it one way for this school? Come in one way, go out one way? Like, so you can only go into apartment one way. They don't let them come out of the school the same way they're going into the school. Is there a way to do that in this area?
So she's referring to North Beverly Elementary, and you're right. There's a one-way traffic flow for drop-off and pickup. I don't know what the answer is in terms of, and we can look at it. You're raising it, we can look at it.
Do you remember the last meeting, not to cut you off, was the, Matt, I can't think of his last name right now, Pasquarello, had mentioned making a temporary drive up to Ayers, go through the parking lot, and where the steps go down to Bridge Street, where that was originally supposed to be a road? Could they
Right
open that
now,
up?
yeah.
Remember he talked about that, and I don't know if any studies were done, or did they look into that?
That's not something that I believe the school community was interested in. I think right now what they're doing is, and some of you know this, they're trying to get as many families as possible to drop down at the bottom of that fire road, and so kids walk up onto campus that way and back. And then some families were already doing that and are walking from their neighborhood. So not something that was received well by other people who were hearing it.
But who were the people? I mean, we heard it.
I would say a combination of our school leadership and our public safety, yes.
Did they do a survey? I mean, if you think about it, it's temporary. We're talking about for a couple of years while they're doing the bridge.
Right.
It's not permanent. It would
Okay,
be-
but for years that has been a walking access point in and out of the school for a good number of families and kids.
But Bridge Street's closed now, so it will be less. It's also had traffic. There's no traffic there now. I think that's why it was brought up, because there's no traffic.
And anybody else have thoughts on this? This one is a turning the school flow. Yeah.
Go back up to Bridge Street, go back to Main Street, so there's no real savings in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, there's only one access point, because all Whitaker is closed.
Okay. I'm not sure that this particular idea is going to has the benefit you're looking for. Your first point was to ask about can we help in getting people out at the bottom of Green Street. We'll talk about that. This other one, I don't have really an opinion on it. But it's not something that has been embraced or tried yet. Okay, I'm sorry, could we get you a microphone? Where'd that go? Thanks. Sorry.
I used to do a crossing there, and when the bridge would close to be opened, it was awful. I mean, the cars would come over the hill. It was just horrible. Is there a way to make some of these side streets a one-way going in? Like, you can only come up certain hours one way. Like, say, come up Kermit Heights one way, only take a right into the school, come out and only go down Woodland just during the school hours, and you're going to have a flow of traffic, but then at the same point, you're going to still have your child's safety, and maybe it wouldn't be so congested for these people walking to school.
Yeah, there were a few days, 2 or 3 days, where the police didn't let anybody up Kernwood Heights. They stopped doing it because we had to have people kind of go back to their own patterns in order to gather that traffic data. But I mean, does it make sense to not allow anybody up Kernwood Heights?
Well, I'm just
Those
saying-
cars are most likely, I'm just thinking aloud, are most likely then going Livingstone instead?
Well, yeah, like
So-
come up one way, go into the school, only take a right at the bottom of Kermit Heights into the school. And then when you come out, you're just going down Woodland. Only that 45 minutes, like in the morning and the afternoon. That's what they do at all the other schools, just to make the traffic flow keep going.
It only works if you split the commuters from the school people. Like, say, you can only go down, right, and they can't come up.
So people would access the school from Livingstone, Green, Woodland, Gregg, some combination of streets, but they would go out of the neighborhood down Kernwood Heights.
I only think it makes sense if you're splitting the commuters.
Right.
You can do that by having a right turn going to Heights and off Livingstone. Because the majority of people that are coming over the
Right, right. So I would say there's, yeah, Chief. Oh, sure. So I would say these conversations we can dig into a little more with Chief and with Sergeant Henneberry and Commissioner Collins and others, and we can come back when we have this conversation looking at some of the speeding data that was gathered. We can talk more about this, and so we can do it pretty quickly. We can get back together pretty quickly. One thing that the police have been discussing is the possibility of taking traffic coming from Kernwood Bridge, from that end of Ryleside and from Salem, taking that traffic and making it go left at the four-way stop at Harris, and so then you're going over to Livingstone, and now you're coming into the traffic light. So nobody would be allowed to go to the end of Kernwood to take a left or a right or a straight. How do you feel about that? Okay, so the thought being, traffic that was looking to get elsewhere would go onto Livingstone through the traffic light over to Woodland and out Green. School traffic could go right at Bridge and then go up Kernwood Heights. Is that the thinking, Chief? So that it's a thought. It's but that's the reason for the conversation. You need a microphone.
Yep. Well, can I?
I'll one second, Charlie. Here, just make your point, and then we'll.
So, yeah, I live on Livingstone in between the three-way stop and the light, and both the light and the three-way stop are ignored all the time, and people are total jerks about it. So I think trying to force people down that would just make the neighborhood unlivable.
Thanks, appreciate that. Yes, Charlie.
I have a real quick one. I just want to add, how about having the cars, this is in the traffic thing, and my name is Charlie Mann, I live on Riverview Street. The cars, the real problem, the two places where I almost get killed are when I come up on Bridge Street where the barrier is, because the barrier is there, that's through traffic coming through on Kernwood to Kernwood Heights, feels like there's no stop sign at all. They just tear right through. And then the other place, if I go up to Livingstone and go up Livingstone, and when you get to Woodland, that same group of cars, the commuters that are going up Kernwood Heights, are flying by the time they get to Livingstone. So what if you just have a left turn only sign at the end of Kernwood? So now the cars that are the commuters have to go left, so now they'll choose to go right on Livingstone. That way the people who live on Kernwood Heights coming home on Bridge could take a left. They'd be legal. But so you just have just left turn only at that one spot. What that does is separates the commuters from the local traffic. Follow me? It's the commuters.
Well, I mean, if everybody turned left, now everybody's going over Livingstone. And people who are looking to go through the neighborhood and out the other side.
That's only the people who came over the bridge, because they're coming through the neighborhood anyway. They're going up, it's a straight shot, so they go up Kernwood and zoom up Kernwood Heights.
Right.
If you had a left turn only, they've got to jog left and they've got to jog right, and they got a stop sign at the end of Livingstone where it hits Woodland, and that breaks up that, race course.
Okay.
Well, the kids that gets the cars a block away.
I will say this, it sounds to me like, look, we all work for you, right? Some elected, some appointed. We're going to take all this back and try to do some thinking through, and then let's get back together, all right? Because clearly what works for some doesn't work for everybody. It doesn't work for others, and some things make sense to try and some things may not. I want to try to get this right together. So we will do that. We'll get back to, I keep saying we'll get back together. I don't want to promise a night, but we will. It's already November 1st. Let's try to do it within 2 weeks. Okay, we'll try to get a couple dates sorted in the next 24 hours and get something out. Who's next?
Does the city have a designated project manager for this particular bridge project to see it through the process, who will be accountable for hitting deadlines so that it's not sitting on people's desks and not moving forward? Since this seems to be a new, out-of-scope project for most of the people in the city?
Yeah. I mean, on the one hand, me. On the other hand, it's Commissioner Collins and our city engineer and me, right? So, I don't know, Mike, as we're moving ahead, you have any further thought on that?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a tough one for us because it's a MassDOT project. We deal with them all the time. They're great people. We are in this, and I mean, everyone in this room, everyone in the city of Beverly is in this project together. And some of these challenges ahead of us, the permitting agencies, whatnot, it is pushing a rock uphill. I can tell you that unequivocally. And I've been up against some of these permitting agencies. All I can say is they don't care. They have their timelines. They're going to take it. They have statutorily, legally 18 months. They're going to take 18 months. So it's very frustrating for us, but we are going to do everything in our power to make sure that they listen to us. I'll tell you that over the lifespan of this very short lifespan of this project, for us, when we found out about it, and I suggested maybe some things about different locations for the current Hall-Whitaker Bridge, immediately told no. And the mayor has been able to push them off of no and get them back into discussing different alignments and some just considering options. Said, no, we're 2 years down the road on this design and it's too late. We've already made these decisions. But the mayor's been able to push back and get MassDOT to come back to the table and listen to us and listen to the community, listen to all the comments that all of you have given the mayor and the other elected officials. So MassDOT is, they're not immune to the pressure of the masses that, what can you do? Come to be involved, stay involved, let us know your thoughts. This isn't, nobody's trying to force this upon anyone. We have a bad situation here. We have a bridge that should have been replaced decades ago, but it wasn't, so here we are. We're going to deal with it the best we can. Well, yeah, Mass DOT has their own project manager dedicated full-time to this project. And then we as a team, the mayor and I and others, we stay in constant contact with them. The mayor is in almost daily contact with Mass DOT over this. Once the project gets a certain amount of inertia, it takes a little less hand-holding. Right now, it's taking daily pushing by my office, the mayor's office, the other elected officials, and that's happening. We're trying to make sure that this project gets formulated in the way that is best for the city of Beverly, collectively, Ryleside, the entire city. And we've already seen very positive results for that. Mass DOT has been wonderful to work with. They're very amenable to it. We will go arm in arm with them to the permitting agencies to try to get them to make sure that we're not just another project, because we all know that we are going to be just another project on some bureaucrat's desk in Washington. That's true, but we need to make sure that collectively it doesn't get lost. And, we're committed to doing that. We do that a lot. We do that all the time. So I think we've had a fairly effective outreach on that.
Let me just, couple thoughts. If we could do two things. Jocelyn, where'd you go? This gentleman and then Tom up here. But before that, I just want, thank you. And, you know, for right now, it's Mike, it's me, and it's the city engineer. And I hear your concern. I do. We've heard kind of that revisiting the whole temporary bridge versus permanent bridge idea. What I tried to say earlier is it's MassDOT that's been pushing a temporary. I think their mindset and their fear is if we take the time to design and go through the design and permitting on a permanent Hall-Whitaker replacement bridge, that's going to be a longer lead time and that they're afraid that Kernwood's going to fall down. That's my take. And that's why, you know, to your point earlier, Mike, on, you know, an investment for a temporary asset, you know, but that's how I've understood it. We'll keep pushing that conversation, but, you know, I don't know if that's possible. But anyway, I hear your concerns. Thanks. Sir?
Hi, my name's Keith Panunzio. I live on Bridge Street. Since permitting it seems to be the longest part of this project, is there a reason why we can't just skip all the permitting and just put the same bridge on the same footprint and save years of planning, permitting?
So to answer you, I'm not going to try to answer you completely because I don't want to get it wrong. But again, if you look to the, and this is on our website, give it a look. They've got scenarios. One of them is going straight to a permanent Hall-Whitaker, and they show, I believe, they show a longer timeline. Give that a look.
On the same footprint? Because that would save permitting, wouldn't it?
They talk about an expedited permitting process for a temporary bridge. Okay? You know what, we're going to do this. You bring it up. We're still here, if you guys don't mind. Jocelyn, can we find that slide? Sure. Okay. It was permitted in the 1930s. So this is, you know. But let's look and see. If we don't find it, I apologize, and we'll find it. But I believe it's on here. Is this the slide deck where they show the different scenarios? You're not sure. That's right. The state has, I'm going to give you a couple numbers, right? They've got over 600 structurally deficient bridges. There's a list of 63 that the governor brought forward when the bipartisan infrastructure law passed late last year. I guess today's the one-year anniversary of it passing. He did a press conference. He said, here are 63 bridges that this money is going to help us replace. 2 of them are Kernwood and Hall-Whitaker. We called them the next day and said, great, we're doing this Bridge Street reconstruction project. Let's do the Hall-Whitaker at the same time. They said, no, it'll hold you up on the road project. It's, you know, so, but yeah, they've got a prioritization. These 2 bridges are, you know, they're up there. I said to them that, yeah, go ahead. Yeah. I apologize. It may have been an earlier slide deck where they laid out the different alternatives, one being to do a temp. Well, as she's doing that, if it's there to see, I'm not sure it is, but they looked at 3 alternatives, right? One is to close both bridges down and do both bridges at the same time, right? I heard some applause for that earlier, but I don't know that that is really where the community wants to be as a whole. But one is to shut them both down and build them both. Another is to do the Kernwood first and the Hall-Whitaker second. Another is temporary Hall-Whitaker, permanent Kernwood, permanent Hall-Whitaker. Your question is, why would it have to take so much longer? Why would it be that problematic to do a permanent permitting in the same footprint, right? Yeah.
Yes, why would it take longer? Why couldn't we just
We've
say
asked
all
it, they've
that time?
answered it. I apologize, I can't remember the answer. We're going to go back and look at it again.
Okay.
Okay, when we talk next, we'll be ready to talk about that. So, all right, apologies. We really are going to get together sooner than later with all these things to follow on. And Tom Oconee. Tom. Could you use the microphone, Tom? Thanks.
Just real quick, I fully support, I think it was Mr. Silva said earlier, talked about getting to the right people. And I know earlier you introduced local folks that are here, state level folks. And I'm just wondering, maybe I missed it, perhaps they're in costume, but where are the federal representatives?
Yep. So a couple answers to that. The congressman's office, Kelly Bovio is one of his key local people. She's been in most every meeting we've had to date. And she and I spoke earlier today.
Was she here a couple of weeks ago?
She was. Was she in the room or watching from home? Yeah. I think she was watching because she was not healthy at that moment.
My point is, I've seen emails that people have sent out, or Facebook posts, et cetera, and Mr. Collins just mentioned it a few minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
He's been in situations where if they tell you it's going to be 18 months, they're going to use 18 months for a permit. We're dealing with EPA, Army Corps of Engineers, the Coast Guard, engineering firms, overrides, et cetera. So I want to be optimistic. I don't want it to be 13 years. I'm leaning toward it being more. I want to embrace what you're saying. I want it to be 10 years. I just don't see it happening unless we can get, as Mr. Silva said earlier, from the top down, unless you can get to our two senators and our state rep to start pushing. These folks aren't going to be able to do them. They can deal with DOT. They're not going to be able to deal with people in D.C.
Right.
Our other representatives, we have two senators that have been there long enough. We have a state rep that's been there long enough. They should be able to get some action done to help this thing, to move this thing along, to compress that timeline.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to be looking at 13 years.
Yeah, no, it's a great point, Tom. And Matt, when you said it earlier, it resonated. We are in conversations with Senator Warren and Senator Markey's offices. As I said, Kelly Bovio from Congressman Moulton's office is in most of these conversations. What we're trying to do is work with MassDOT to get an opportunity to get all the offices, our offices and those offices, that really kind of full primer on the permitting processes. And they've got experts in those offices as well, on various pieces of this, right? So you're right, and we're going to be using those, pulling those levers and having those federal level elected officials and their staff try to help us move on that. And these agencies will also take calls from us, but you're absolutely right. A federal elected official is going to get a quicker response from a federal agency, person. So, yep, it's all part of what we're trying to coordinate.
So at the next meeting, we're talking about traffic issues.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to get together really quickly in the next 10 days to 2 weeks to go back through some of these neighborhood traffic concerns, et cetera. That I'm not sure they'll be there, because we're just trying to get that sorted. Yeah, you should start seeing. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. When it's, as I said, MassDOT is not, they haven't put anything forward yet, but you're right, and as this kind of team gets up to speed on the issues here, they're going to be at the table with us, and you'll see them. Yep. Yeah. All right, so let's wrap for now. We'll be in touch in the next, Tuesday. We'll be in touch in the next couple of days with another date. we'll take all this back, we'll try to get some answers and things and be ready to, to dialogue more with you and try to get some satisfaction in the neighborhoods for your safety concerns. Councilor.